Hey, full-time fans, time for overtime, brought to you by Modelo. Let's take a look back at this Texas versus Alabama game we just saw. Listen, in the second quarter, this was a great play by Quinn Ewers. Tied at 3, he is going to drop 2 nickels. What a perfect ball to Xavier Worthy. Let me tell y'all
How do you catch
one
that?
thing. It is hard to find a ball like that.
How do you find that?
One thing that Ewers does really well is throwing the deep ball with a lot of touch. He lets his receivers get under it. Just taking a look at that play. Quinn Ewers had himself a day. And to start off the game, Alabama couldn't get pressure on him. He was not pressured on his first 13 dropbacks. And then in the fourth quarter, he was 6 for 7, 135 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Quinn Ewers is now a legend in Texas, and the people out there are never going to have him pay for another drink for as long as he lives, as though he didn't have enough NIL money anyway, right?
He's chilling now with the addition of NIL money. But, here's the question I have for Texas now. Okay, you get the big win against Alabama. This was a win that, their fans have been waiting for a decade. The season's not over though. Let's not get this twisted. Texas has higher aspirations than just beating than just beating Alabama.
Yeah.
They want to go beat Oklahoma. They want to go beat Kansas in 2 weeks. They have aspirations not only to win the Big 12, but to make it to a college football playoff and win a national title. I think the expectation in Austin has always been, this is a national title contending program. But they haven't had the wins to prove it. This is a good start, but this is week 2, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of football that we have left to be played. Congratulations, we got the win. We got to go back to work, though.
Yeah, and got to stay healthy. That's the game of football. As the cliche, the best ability is availability. Right. And I said it earlier in the show. Had Ewers not gotten hurt last year, there's a good chance that Alabama would have lost. Now, I think back to this game right around the 8-minute mark when Texas had a 10-point lead. And for those that don't know, there's some new rules in college football. There's the clock rule change. So what they're doing now, after every first down, the clock continues to move. And then after the ball is kicked on a kickoff, the clock continues to move. So this was all in an effort to keep the game moving so it could be shorter and they could run less plays. Now, Nick Saban, he used his timeouts early.
Yeah.
Understanding that there are now new rules within the game of college football. So that 8-minute to 2-minute mark goes in an instant, a lot quicker than it used to. So my question to you, Sam, do you think that it had a play in this game towards the end? And I know that Milroe didn't play the best, but you could see that Texas was starting to take advantage of that rule and drain the clock.
I think it's so tough because I don't think that down 2 possessions at that point in the game, Alabama has a chance regardless of whether the clock is stopping. But I think it does change at least how coaches will coach games from here on out, because you've got to realize, okay, the clock is going to move on first downs up until we have 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. You pretty much have to be within 1 score to really have a chance. But, it'll change how we manage the clock, how we use our timeouts, when we use our timeouts. And I think we've already seen that, play out in college football through the first 2 weeks. Well, there were some really interesting plays throughout the day in regards to clock management. We saw in the Colorado game right before the half, right? The player didn't step out of bounds, but they had a timeout left, and Prime was able to call the timeout, and they kicked the field goal. I think it's still an adjustment period, figuring out how do we kind of work on this clock situation. How do we use it to our advantage? But you got to be close towards the end of games. You got a tight window there. I
will say, for those wondering in terms of the clock rules, and this is just for the first week of college football, they averaged 66.9 plays per game in 2023. Last year, it was 68.7, so just 2 more plays than last year. So not much of a difference. And then the average time for games in week 1 was 3 hours and 26 minutes. That is 1 minute down from the year before at 3 hours and 27 minutes. Now, I'm sure as we get more games and go throughout more weeks, we'll be able to get a larger sample size where we'll see the effects of the new rules starting to come in. My question to you now is, can Alabama still make it in the CFP? Because we know how Nick Saban is, but this performance wasn't impressive when you get beat like that by Texas.
Well, it helps that LSU lost. I mean, that doesn't hurt. I think it's going to come down probably to that LSU game. That's going to be another deciding game. Does Alabama pick up their second loss? I will say this: we have not had a college football playoff team enter the college football playoff after losing their opening game in the season. That has not happened.
Yeah,
So, I mean, Clemson, LSU, I don't know, odds are against you there. I think Alabama losing in week 2 isn't the end of the day, especially when you consider probably what Texas is going to do this year in the Big 12. That leaves the door open at least maybe a smidge.
That is another loss for the SEC in non-conference competition. That was a topic of conversation coming out of week 1.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.